Today on Think Smart with TMFG, Mike and I are going to be discussing 8 ways to steer clear of financial fraud.
It's out there all the time now.
Every day, someone's trying to break into your phone, break into your house, break into your computer. Financial fraud is prevalent in today's society.
There's countries that just are set up around, and there is no repercussions. It's not like there's anyone to catch or anyone to punish for it. It just it's happening from outside of the country.
So, read a great article by Mark McGrath, who's with PWL in Ottawa. He's actually out in Vancouver. Company is based in Ottawa. And he had an article published in the Globe and Mail called 8 Ways to Steer Clear of Financial Fraud. And I thought it might be a great idea, a timely subject, to talk about what are some of the best strategies to steer clear of financial fraud. Mike, what's number one?
One is verify the credentials and licenses of whoever you're dealing with. You know, we all say we have a financial advisor. In the past, they've been very broad on who could call themselves a financial advisor. So they're starting to try to bring that in and hone that in. But you got to really check the credentials of who you're dealing with.
So here's some ways of doing that. Verify the credentials. So number one, financial advisors must register with the security regulator in each province or territory where they do business. So we have to be registered in the province that we're in. And if we work out of another province, if we have a client that's in Alberta or in British Columbia, we need to be registered in that province as well.
And we're what you call an IROC firm, which means there's protection that comes to clients from this organization. It helps protect their accounts. So
a couple of other ways of verifying your credentials. CIRO, which is the new governing body for financial advisors in Canada, you simply need to enter the advisor. Maybe you're looking for a new advisor, enter their name into their search tool to confirm their credentials at least. I actually tried it. I put both of our names in and luckily we came
passed.
up.
Okay.
We passed. Next thing you might want to look at is what are some of their credentials. Mike, what credentials do you currently have?
I'm a CFP, which means you're a certified financial planner. And it's, everyone gets a securities license that you need to get to sell securities. A certified financial planner is a next level where you go and you understand how financial planning works for individuals. And it's a pretty rigorous course, to be honest. It's one of the better ones out there. You're old, so you have some other credentials.
Well, thanks. I have an RFP, which is a registered financial planner. And it's a group in Canada. It's a very small group, but a tight group of financial advisors. They really focus on financial planning, not just investment planning, but financial planning, tax planning, estate planning. They have a great feature that anytime I have a difficult question, I can put it out to this group in Canada and go to the most brilliant minds in the country in terms of financial planning, tax planning, and get advice.
And you're a CFP too also. So
I'm also a CFP. Yep. Another designation that you'll often hear is CIM, Certified Investment Manager, and I know both Carlo and John on our team have those.
Well, they're both CFPs too. So, in our office, you have 4 certified financial planners in.
So we've talked about number one. That's the first strategy. Second strategy. If it sounds too good, it probably is. If someone's talking about an investment, I saw one just come across my email today, 9% return going forward. That's been their return for the last 20 years. Mike, does that make your head turn? 9%.
9%.
For the last 20 years.
Pretty great. That thing's every year you get 9%.
Okay.
I know they can't say guarantee, but they make it feel like it's a guarantee, don't they?
Sounded really guaranteed to me. 20 years of 9%, I'm all over that.
Yep.
We should put our clients in it tomorrow. Risk and return are related. If you're going to get a higher return, you have to have a higher risk. The two, if you want to cross at the crosswalk on a green light, that's relatively low risk, low return. It's going to take you a little longer to get there, especially if you have to walk to the end of the block. If you cross the street in the middle, higher return, you get there faster. Higher risk, you may get hit by a car, bike, truck.
The thing that was told me to a long time ago, we all live in the same world, right? So we all have the same. If you're on the public equity markets, every type of person who's trying to put together some investment vehicle, we all live in the same world. We all have the same things we can buy, right? And you can package those up differently. And sure, you can package things up and reduce risk, but there's a cost to it, right? It's always easy to reduce risk, but they forget to add, anytime you want to take, there's the equity markets are your risky or everything, you just go put everything in there. If you want to package it up into something that's going to go and give you equity sort of return ideas and have less risk attached to it, there's going to be a cost because it's not free. And people forget that there's a cost.
So, definition of a scam, any investment that claims higher returns with low risk. I think that's a pretty good definition of something that's probably a scam. Let's go to number 3. Beware of unsolicited investment offers. What would that be, Mike?
Well, just remember, if anyone had something that was a great idea that really, really is truly going to be the next thing to make you rich, would they share it with anyone?
So you've discovered a way of beating the stock market. You're going to
tell everyone.
You've figured out a way of beating Las Vegas at blackjack.
Yeah.
Are you going to pass that on?
It's going to, anyone who had any brains would keep it to themselves and take it to their grave and become a very wealthy person themselves. Whenever someone is telling you something, they're marketing, right? They have a vested interest in you buying it. And the vested interest is not for you, it's for them. So we call this the gym locker conversation. We always have it. Someone goes in, the guy next to you says, I got this stock, I got a tip on it. Well, first of all, anyone who has that situation, had the tip, would keep it to themselves, because once you've given away that tip, it has no advantage to you anymore. So we see that all the time.
So when I was really young, in my early 20s, I saw this job offer to earn quick money.
Yep.
And I went down to this company, and I believe I've told this story on some previous podcast, but I went down to this company, and there was about 20 of us there. And the idea is that you would drive around and you would offer people really cheap speakers for their car.
Yeah.
And it sounded great.
Yeah.
So what you would do is you'd pull up to a street corner and there'd be someone standing there and you'd say, do you want to buy some cheap speakers?
Yeah.
So that's unsolicited.
Yeah.
Hey, I wasn't even looking for speakers, and now someone's offering me really cheap speakers.
Yeah.
The same applies to investments. It's unsolicited. So if someone's giving you investment advice and you didn't ask for it, that means it's unsolicited. That's more likely a scam.
No one's ever went to become an Amway rep. Right?
Should we name that company? I don't know whether we can. Well, I think the evidence shows that it's hasn't been a good strategy. Next up, understand the investment. Investments can be really complex. I recently received an email from someone who's trying to recruit me over to their investment firm, and they told me that the future of investing is going to be, investors are going to be able to self-select out of individual securities in their investment portfolio using hedging strategies, puts and calls. It sounded wonderful. It's so complicated, I didn't understand what the heck he was talking about.
Yeah.
So what have you learned, Mike, about when something's too complex?
When something gets too complex, usually there's some scam behind it. They make it so complicated. Unless you can understand the structure of how the investment works, and more importantly, the structure of how everyone's being paid. Whenever I take an investment down, I always go and ask the question, well, how does everyone get paid? Right, and then they usually silence up, because that's where
they're making more money than you're going to make.
Yeah, you go through. There's a structure, and whenever you do something, someone has nothing. No one does anything without a financial reason behind it, right? So no one's creating financial products just to make the world a better place. That doesn't happen. People who are creating financial products are doing it to create revenue for themselves. And when you dig into that and find out how people get paid, then you truly understand the product, and you find barriers between finding out how everyone's actually getting paid out of this vehicle, it's a scam.
Next up, number 5, avoid pressure tactics. And we face those not just from financial fraudsters, but anything, whether it's Amazon Prime. You better get your order in now or you won't be able to get the discount 24 hours from now. Sometime they'll actually have a clock that says how many hours you have left before you need to make that decision.
When you go to buy a sofa, it's always, this is the last day of the sale.
Right? So fraudsters often pressure potential victims with limited time offers. You need to make a decision now, by the end of the day, by the end of this month, whatever it may be. Anytime you're feeling pressure on making a decision on an investment, there's something wrong with it.
Yep. If it's a good deal today, it should be a good deal tomorrow.
Legitimate investments allow you time to think, ask questions, and seek advice, I think is the important thing. What's up next, Mike?
Consult a trusted financial advisor. I can't say, my biggest frustration with my clients is when they tell me things after they did them. And I feel bad because you don't want to call them out on it because they already made the decision. But just pick up the phone and give me a call. Like before you make some massive financial decision, before you go and buy a place that you don't know if you can afford or not, or you decide to make I'll call it investment. I won't put any adjectives around the investment, but just pick up the phone and ask me what I think of it. And don't tell me afterwards with a guilty conscience, well, I went and did this. It's always a horrible experience because I don't want to come down on them because I don't want to make them feel bad because it's done. You can't do anything about it. But just call beforehand.
I had an interesting one recently with a client, and he told us that he had made this investment. And this is a really conservative part of his portfolio that he's always liked. He's always liked to have a certain amount in cash or cash-like assets, risk-free assets, let's call them. And he had met with an advisor who, when that risk-free asset matured and he was going to put it into another risk-free asset, the advisor coerced him into taking a piece of that and put it into a non-risk-free asset. And when I started to look at the performance of that non-risk-free asset, it was pretty miserable. And then the client provided me the clincher. Well, he bought us lunch. And I thought, okay, so I digress. Get advice. If you don't think you're getting good advice from your advisor, you probably need to find a good advisor. You probably need to get a second opinion. And if you get a second opinion from an advisor, I've had a lot of prospects come to me for a second opinion, and I go, you know what? Your advisor's doing a great job. If that ever changes, reach out to us, but stay where you are. You're getting great advice. Your portfolio looks great. So, it's worth it. Fraudsters often discourage victims from seeking a second opinion. You don't need a second opinion. This is a great idea, great investment. You should put your money in right away. What's next?
Stay informed about current scams. There's a lot, as you hear, the Nigerian princess, there's always these ones going around. They change all the time. One thing I tell people, because sometimes you don't know if something's a scam, go into a separate Google tab and go type in whatever is said or what the name is, or copy and paste it in there. And in 2 seconds, it would tell you this is a scam. A lot of times it comes up because if you put the name out there, because the name will be the same for everyone, and you can see what's gone on. So that's one thing I do whenever I'm uncertain of anything. And immediately I usually get big results on this is a scam that's been going on for 6 months or a year. And they're hard to tell. Honestly, I feel for old people because some of the stuff that comes in is very, very good.
Be careful. I'm one of those older people now. Yeah. I could get my CPP right now, and I'm only 2 years away from my old age security pension. So
see what you click on.
Right? So I think, we have one of the things I subscribe to at home, and it's a love-hate relationship. We've got a neighborhood app. But it's actually not just my neighborhood. It says it's my neighborhood, but it's actually most of Toronto, or at least North Toronto. Anyways, but I get regular updates on car thefts that are in the neighborhood. And then I look to see what address it is on that. Oh, at least they're not coming into our neighborhood. And recently, they're coming into our neighborhood, and not like they're coming into the streets around my house. Not only that, there's break and enters on the streets around my house. So I'm on top of what's going on. So you need to know what's going on in the world. Even just staying on top of the news, you'll know what scams are going out. And it's not just stealing your car out of your driveway. You got to make sure your doors are locked when you're driving because people want to, carjack you. Let's go to number 8.
8 is trust your instincts.
This is probably the most important one.
Things don't feel right. There's that butterfly in your stomach. And there's different butterflies. There's the one when you're taking a risk in there. There's the good butterflies, but there's the bad butterflies when you think this just seems too good. Again, back to the too good to be true, or something doesn't feel right.
It's interesting. I don't know what the science behind our instincts are, but I think there's got to be some science behind that. It's always there, your instinct, but whether you trust it or not doesn't always happen. And lately, our parent company has been testing us on, they send out fake emails, fake investments, fake invoices, fake texts.
Got me once.
Right? And it's gotten me twice now.
Yeah.
I've had to, and what the requirement is, if we get caught, we have to go and sit through a 45-minute video on all the different ways you can get caught.
It was funny. My last one that came up, I knew it, right? I'm looking at it. I know it's going to be wrong.
That's your instinct.
But my instinct is I knew it was wrong. But the problem was we had just been doing an event, and I knew they were supposed to get back to me with a confirmation that I had to sign off on. And I thought it could be that. And, I went through, I was thinking, I want to do this. And as soon as I clicked, the big red screen came up and said, you got caught. Ah.
So you knew.
I knew.
But you clicked on it anyways.
I clicked on it anyway.
So trust your instinct. That brings us to the end of another week. This is Rob and Mike with Think Smart with TMFG from the McClelland Financial Group of Asante Capital Management.